Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 238, Feeling High Vibes with Yogi Triathlete Jess and BJ Gumkowski.
In today's episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk to Yogi Triathletes Jess and BJ Gumkowski about high vibes. High vibes is the state that we all want to be in, feeling good, moving with the flow of life, and being our very best positive selves. We talk about how exercise, the people we interact with, the food we eat, getting still, and the way that we talk and think all affect our vibes. Jess shares how she used to be a very low vibe person. She was still kind and caring, but just not so much to herself. And she's made small changes to be the high energy, positive thinking, trail running yogi triathlete that she is today. There's a really great connection between the four of us on this show, and we hope that you feel it too. Jess is a vegan lifestyle coach and educator and author of the Yogi Triathlete Cookbook, High Vibe Recipes for the Athlete Appetite. She credits mindfulness practices and high vibrational eating with creating significant and meaningful changes in her health, career, and relationships, and holds both essential to peak performance in sports and life. Jess has well over a decade of experience working with athletes on body and mind mastery.
BJ is an 11-time Ironman triathlete, yoga instructor, podcaster, personal trainer, and mindfulness-based triathlon and running coach. His zeal for life is infectious, as is his passion for serving those around him and achieving their greatest dreams. BJ's mindfulness practice was born out of his darkest night and has since become a focal point of his training. He's certified in plant-based nutrition from the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies and is currently one of the top Ironman triathletes in the USA, and he's doing it all on plants.
Woo!
Together, they're on a mission to create a better world by changing the face of athleticism, teaching mindfulness, sharing stories through the Yogi Triathlete podcast, and promoting a healthy lifestyle through plant-based nutrition.
Podcasting is like the street performing of radio. Street performers make up their acts, plan, prepare, and get all dressed up. Podcasters seduce guests into coming onto the show, prepare the show, and get the best recording gadgets. Street performers lure their audience in with a great opening act. Podcasters are constantly finding unique ways to let others know what's going on. Street performers have foot traffic to lure in, and podcasters have to work hard to get themselves out there. Street performers come back day after day because they love the way that people look when they laugh and are entertained. Podcasters come back week after week because they're passionate about their message and are humbled by how many people they help. Every now and again, you come across a performance that excites you, that you enjoy, that you can relate to, and then you throw a couple of bucks in the pot. Well, that pot for podcasters is called Patreon. It's a unique way that listeners can show their appreciation and help cover some of the hosting costs and hours of hard work that it takes to put shows out like this. So if you're feeling like this show lights you up, helps you, informs you, or maybe entertains you, we would be grateful for your donation at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even $1 helps us cover costs and ramp up our game. Thank you to those who already contribute and to those who will.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I'm grateful that introduction is over. I butchered it. It took 18 takes, and I'm just leaning into it and learning from my experience.
I'm grateful for an email that I received the other day, and I wanted to share it with everybody. So it has a quote that says, "Life always gives us exactly the teacher we need at every moment. This includes every mosquito, every misfortune, every red light, every traffic jam, every obnoxious supervisor or employee, every illness, every loss, every moment of joy or depression, every addiction, every piece of garbage, every breath, every moment is the guru." And that's by Joko Beck. And so the email actually said, "Saw this today, thought you would like it. You're no piece of garbage, but you are a teacher, and I think this quote resonates with how me and many others feel about you. You don't need to write something on the board to teach us, and that's powerful, and a trait I am sure you don't even know you carry. So thanks for being there for me, for others, in any moment." And I'm just so grateful to get that email. It's really powerful, and I really, really appreciate it and thought I'd share it with everyone.
Jess and Brian Gumkowski, thank you so much, Yogi Triathletes, for being on the Plant Trainers podcast today.
We are fired up to be here. Even though we're not really there, we're fired up just to be in Southern California connecting with you.
Well, we wish that we were in Southern California, there in person connecting with you.
I wish you guys were here too. We had a little pre-chat before we started this, and I'm liking the vibe between the four of us a lot.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I'm grateful that we're finally connecting. It's been quite a while. Actually, Linda Lang had mentioned you guys to us a long time ago. And she's like, you guys are just going to jive with them. You're going to connect so well. You got to get this going. And when you reached out to us, I was so excited because I'm like, finally, like the stars have brought us together. And we'd both said that we'd been thinking of each other for a while. So I'm so grateful that you're here. And Adam and I have already shared our moment of gratitude for today's show. But do you have one that you'd like to share with us?
Of course. BJ, what's yours?
Throw him right into it, right?
Right into the fire. I love her so much.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I always go first. So I thought I would give you center stage.
You know, I'm so grateful because our dog is laying right here. I'm so grateful that our golden retriever is now plant-based and we only make one meal for all of us and we all get to share it. I'm extremely grateful that he's converted over and he's thriving as a healthy, vibrant, silly golden retriever.
That's great. Let's get back into that a little bit later because I want to talk a little bit more about that. Jess, how about you?
Well, what's coming in right now is just the gratitude I have for this medium of podcasting. When I think about the amount of people that we've been able to share the microphone with and have a conversation with, like, I'm just at a point in my life where I'm into quality conversation and nothing less. And this has opened up that whole world for me. And so every week we get to have these amazing conversations and connect with people that we're aligned with. And I'm so grateful for the technology that allows you guys in Canada to connect with us in Southern California right now. And I feel like you're right on the other side of our breakfast bar. It's so amazing. And so I'm really, really grateful to be bringing in beautiful people like you guys into our life in a deeper way by connecting through podcasting.
Thank you.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, thank you so much. You know that we actually did catch up with you in person. I don't know if you realize this, but I believe when we were at Ironman Louisville, BJ and I ran past each other and we didn't stop because we were in the middle of the run, but I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we did say hi to each other and kept going and did not catch up with each other that whole weekend.
No, I think we were supposed to.
We were supposed to, and it wasn't aligning. But I do remember that, Adam, on the run course. It was right before the bridge. Yeah. That bridge section. You were wearing your Amrita gear. I remember seeing you. Yeah, totally.
And I was actually on the street, and I saw you, and I was cheering you on.
Well, thank you.
I missed you. I had 11 hours to try to catch up with you, and it didn't happen.
Shame on us, Shoshana, for not connecting but as you know, being an Ironman Sherpa is no joke. And I've been on both sides, and I can tell you it's way easier to do the race.
Really?
Oh, I think so.
I would probably agree. I haven't done the Ironman, but I would agree. I mean, Adam's first Ironman and our moms, I don't know if they're going to listen to the show, but I mean, that was hard work. Sherping Adam and being there with both of our moms, that was insane. Okay, that's number one.
Yeah, that one I would have rather been doing the race, no question about it.
She's like, what do you mean we're going to miss him? What do you mean we're going to get him? Where is he? How come we haven't seen him? I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then
it's hurry up and wait. All you do all day is hurry up and wait.
Oh, we went shopping though too at we at the mall across the street. And
that's why we connect.
Yeah, and then that was Texas. But Louisville, I was with my son. He was 7, but he did so well. Yeah, it was hard. Also, I think we took a nap in a hotel basement with a bunch of other people. Just during the run portion, go out, see him, go take a nap, go back and get him. But yeah, so triathloning is hard no matter what side of the fence you're on. It's a lot of pressure for everybody. You're just wanting and hoping that your athlete is doing well, that they're not giving up, that they've made all the time limits that they need to make, that they're kind of hitting their goals or within their goals. So it's really nerve-wracking, and then trying to figure out, where do you see them? Where are you going to see them? Did you miss them? And the tracker never updates on time. So there's so many moving parts to it.
Do you know that these guys have done this so many times? And I think I saw recently that BJ is an 11-time Ironman, and he's actually ranked pretty high in the U.S. right now. How high are you ranked? Do you know?
In the U.S., I'm 6th in the nation in my age group for Ironman.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All on plants.
All on plants.
And not until you were on plants.
Yeah, not until
Did you get this fast and good?
Right.
What's your next race?
I'm prepping for Ironman Oceanside, 70.3. And then the next month, I'll be racing Ironman Santa Rosa again in May.
And have you done Kona?
I have not. That is the carrot that's dangling in front of me.
2018, this year.
Good luck.
Going to win his age group in Santa Rosa.
Awesome. And what's your next race, Jess?
I recently sold my triathlon bike, and I did my first ultra marathon last year. And so that, fist pump right there. Yeah. That is such a love for me. I can't even tell you, after being on the pavement for so many years, I've been racing triathlon for 13 years, and now to be on the trails and in nature and to do something, to be quite honest, why I signed up for it is because it scared me. And I wanted to face that fear. I wanted to walk into it and use all my yoga skills to really walk into it in a powerful and calm way. And I did my first one last year. So I'm training for another one right now, which is in April, and it's in Mendocino. It's a 50K, and it's a total, you wouldn't know this if you looked at the website, but it's a completely vegan event.
It's Sid's event.
Sid's right?
It's Sid. Yeah. You guys know Sid. Yeah. So he's rocks. He's amazing. And it's such a gorgeous course. I mean, you run, so we're doing the course in reverse this year. So it will be like the first 10 miles along this river, and then you're in the woods for about 20 miles in the redwoods, which is, oh my God, unbelievable and so vibrant with life because there's rain up there and it's just amazing. And then the last final few miles is along the headlands, right along the ocean. It's so breathtaking.
Yeah, I got to figure out a way to get up to that race, or down to that race, I should say. I don't think it's going to work out this year, but hopefully next. Maybe this year. I don't know. I have to look. I know it's sold out already, but I think I can talk to Sid and weasel my way in.
We might be able to get your way in.
But I got to see if it works schedule-wise. It's something I'd like to do. Definitely.
Let's remember to put a link to that in the show notes. If anybody is looking for a really awesome race for next year, then they can sign up for that.
Everything to the hotel, which is plant-based, to they let your dogs come in the hotel. Like, it's everything about the event is so like friendly. It's just so friendly.
And it was so like to go to an event and just like have my shoes on already. And it was so low key. I knew it was going to be, people would say to me, because I've been like eyeing ultramarathons for a while, and people would say to me, make sure you're done with triathlon. Like, make sure you're kind of done before you do this, because you might fall in love with it. And that's exactly what happened. And it just fills me up like Ironman used to. It just fills me up.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome experience, totally different feel. And I've been doing more and more of that also. So
I think it's gaining a lot of traction. We had Kim Matthews on a couple of weeks ago, and she won the Asia Trails in 2017. And Doug Hay is going to be talking to us about trail running in a couple of weeks as well. So anybody who's looking for those specifics on how to get started, I think we're going to cover that with him as well.
So not only are you guys triathletes, but you're also big yogis. And that's obviously how you got to Yogi Triathlete. So how did you guys get into the yoga aspect of things coming as triathletes? Or did it happen first?
Yeah, I've been practicing yoga since 1993. So a long time ago. My first yoga class was in Jamaica, and my roommate at Boston University lived in Jamaica. And so I went there, and I thought that my first yoga class was actually about 5 years later. And then I just had this vision one day, and I remember it so clearly. We were like in this kind of like hut thing, and it was a gym. And I remember rolling out a mat, and I like had this vision of way back then doing yoga. It didn't have much of an effect on me at that point. The next class I remember was about 4 or 5 years later, and that had a huge effect on me because I hated it. I hated it so much. I was a very stressed person. I was a very type A. I was a total perfectionist, right? Like, I was the epitome of a type A, really powerful girl in her in her 20s. I was a wedding planner. I was kind of a nightmare and I hated it, but something brought me back. And I practiced. That was really when I remember practicing religiously, not a ton every week, like maybe once a week, twice a week, but that's carried through. And then I got into triathlon when we lived in Boulder, Colorado back in 2004 or 2005. And I kept my yoga practice. I was a massage therapist at the time and realized that at that time, and this has totally changed now, but at that time, I was the only triathlete I knew practicing yoga. And that was really when Yogi Triathlete was born, and it started as my personal blog. And I think that's when you got into yoga too, right? What's your story?
So I did yoga back in Newport in 2001.
Oh yeah.
Because I built a website. My former career, I'm a web designer. And I built this website for the yoga studio, and she invited me in for a few classes. And that was my first experience. It was really, I had no clue what I was doing. As with most things in our life, like it takes me a little bit longer to catch up on things that Jess is doing. So we got to Boulder, and then we started going to core power yoga, which core power yoga still has that physical element to it. So it kind of like gelled well with me being a triathlete at that time. And then it wasn't until we went back to Newport, Rhode Island, where my practice really became strong, and strong meaning 3 to 4 times a week on top of triathlon training. And because I saw the benefit of not doing the monotonous straight swim, bike, and run, it got me out of that linear position and got me more into moving my body in ways that would prevent future injury. And also the mindful piece of it, like being quiet with your mind, sitting in long holds. There's nothing there except for your thoughts and your breath. If you focus on your breath, you can't really have that chaotic system going on up top. Like if you're following each breath in and out, then all those thoughts sort of fade away. And so that's what I found in my practice was it was such a great complement to triathlon. It kept me healthy and actually helped to bring me back from an injury that I sustained in 2014 strongly came back. And that's why I became a yoga teacher. I just believed in it so much that.
Well, and it's funny because anytime BJ's swim, bike, run training starts to like get in front of the yoga, old injuries start to creep up. And so that's when he knows, he's like, oh, I've been neglecting it. But we've found in Ironman training, 3 times a week is the sweet spot. Once is not enough because you're just reset. Twice is, yeah, it's all right. 3 times a week in our experience is like total sweet spot to support Ironman training and any kind of endurance training, really.
So, but Ironman training, you can get up to like 20 hours a week, maybe even more depending on your training schedule. So you're adding 3 more hours to that. That's a lot of time, right?
It is, but the way I coach with my athletes is I remove the excess. So we see what your strengths are. If you're a good swimmer, maybe you need to work on the bike and run. Well, let's take down your swimming even down to 2 times a week, maybe once.
Just make it really quality.
Make it quality, and then add in the yoga sprinkled every other day throughout the week, and it sort of keeps that balance. But yeah, you're right, Adam. Like it can build up. Like what's one more thing? Like now I got to add 3 hours. So we finagle with the hours because I'm so committed to keeping our athletes out there training. When you're injured or sick or whatever, you're not training and you're not performing, right? And what happens then? Like the mind starts to go like, I'm losing all this fitness. I need to be out there no matter what. When in reality, you're exactly where you need to be. Like you have enough fitness. We just need to get you back healthy, or at least maintain that healthiness so that you continually compound the training so you get to the place where you can achieve your goals.
Would you do that with a beginner as well, starting off for their first Ironman race? Would you not think that they have to put more time into those 3 disciplines?
I have an athlete right now who hasn't done a triathlon, but he's training for his first, and he's doing yoga 2 times a week. And his challenges are in the pool and in the bike, so we're spending time on that. But he's a runner. So here's the trick. Not the trick, but here's what we like to work on is the mindset, right? You're a runner. Keep that mindset. That's the positive. Let's package that up and keep that over here. Like you're a runner. We don't need to work on that right now. And once they start believing that they're a runner, like they don't need to put in the 20 or 25 miles a week, like if they can be specific to what they're doing in triathlon, run 10 or 15 minutes off the bike every now and then, like they're keeping that moving. But let's keep you out there training, get you stronger. And of course, Adam, as you get close to the race, like the 4 to 6 weeks out, we're adding in more stuff like that. Maybe the yoga slips back to 2 weeks.
Or they do
two times a week.
With our team, we'll give them like 30-minute yoga. We'll record like 30, 20-minute yoga workouts where they can do it. Because when you're thinking about a schedule so condensed, right? We all know what an Ironman training schedule looks like. Even half Ironman training, even an Olympic, if it's somebody's first one, how overwhelming that can be. But if we can remove the driving to the studio, driving home from the studio, all that extra stuff, checking in, and they can just put on a 30-minute or an hour or, a 20-minute yoga practice that we record, then that will help. That gives them, it makes it a little bit more accessible for them and digestible in their schedule. But the most important thing that I see that BJ does as a coach is that he just hammers the importance of being very skillful at being in the present moment. Because when you are skillful at living in the present moment, you realize that moment is limitless. And when you can live there and you can live from there, you realize that there is no lack at all in this life. There is no lack in the time that you have in a day, in a week, because it's so easy. And I've been there to wake up in the morning, like my eyes are closed, the sheets are still on, and all of a sudden my day is spinning through my head. This doesn't happen anymore, but it spins through my head. And at 10, all of a sudden I'm at 10 o'clock at night. It's still morning. I haven't even gotten out of bed yet, but I'm so overwhelmed at everything that has to get done that I'm already exhausted before I even open my eyes. And so that's the importance of, when we think about yoga, I think we confuse it a lot with just the physical exercise. And yes, that is a part of it. But this is a science of the mind. And I think we can all agree, just like everyone can benefit from having more fruits and vegetables, that we can all agree that if we can get more skillful at using our mind as the tool that it is, because it's just a tool, it's not who we are, that there's going to be way more ease in your life. And if we can do that when somebody's training for an Ironman, that is going to affect every single facet of their life and every relationship they have. And none more so than the one with themselves.
That's what's going to keep them feeling the high vibes instead of walking around like a zombie all day.
Right. Yes, I know. We call it like Dawn of the Dead. Like we could go to Carlsbad Village on a Saturday night. It's like people might as well just have their arms out like zombies, like we're just not living. We're not experiencing the present moment because we're so in the future, or we're dragging around stuff from the past, which is really, really heavy.
Or we're numbing out.
And we're missing our lives. We're missing our lives. Missing them.
So talk to us a little bit about these high vibes. It's a motto of yours. It's something that you use. It's something that's all throughout your cookbook. Talk to us about your take on it.
Well, my take on it goes right back to Einstein, right? Albert Einstein said to us that everything is energy. Everything is energy. Everything has a vibrational, energetic resonance. And so that's going to span the scale. There's going to be higher vibes. There's going to be lower vibes. And so if we're talking specific Yogi Triathlete kind of speak here, lower vibes, lower vibration, like the heavier, more dense, kind of weigh you down type of vibrations are, negative thought patterns, feelings that people are alone in this battle of life and, this idea of living in lack. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. And those vibrations, those lower vibrations can really, really weigh you down. They can become just cages from which you live and limit you. And higher vibrations, like higher vibrational resonance of energy would be, and this kind of goes into like these yogic energies, they're more pure. They're more compassionate. They're more loving. They're more open. They're more receptive, to be always in a receptive mode, no matter what is coming at you. And so we've found, and also being meditators, like dedicated meditators, as you meditate, there's a purification process that happens with your body and your mind. And it's just a byproduct of sitting still every day. And your vibration starts to raise. Like, I cannot remember the last time I was ill. Like I am untouchable by any kind of flu or cold that comes around the town, because my mind is so well trained that I don't even buy into the fact that it's a possibility that I could get the flu. Because really, and this is going off the rails a little bit, but the only reason why we get sick is because we believe we can. So even my beliefs are energy. My thoughts are energy. And so if I can take those and live more on the higher end of having more pure thoughts, an honest way of living, really, really high vibrational communication with my husband in every way possible, being very honest with the way that I move through the world, the food that I put in my body, how I move my body. I think that this world can really benefit from more people moving towards this higher vibrational way of life. I'm at a point in my life where it's the only way I can live now. I'm so on to the way that the ego works and how the brain responds to habitual thoughts and behaviors. Everything that's practiced will become easier. This is the law of facilitation. Once a set of neurons goes down a specific pathway, it becomes easier every time. So if I say that the lady next door is a pain in the butt, every time I say that, that belief system in my brain gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But if I can look at her from this 10,000 foot view, this higher vibrational view, and I see like, she's me, she's just paying her rent and working and putting food in her refrigerator. And if there's anything I've learned from these conversations through this podcast is that in the essence of our struggles, they're very, very similar. And so through meditation, I raised this vibration within myself that I can see everything with a more pure eye, like sight.
I've really been trying to practice that too, because I used to be the type of person who would very easily pick up on other people's vibrations. So whether it was their accent, if I was talking to somebody from England or Australia, like I'd find there'd be little tweaks in my accent. Or if I was talking to someone who was really angry or really sad, then I would pick up on that too. And I would then speak like that as well and start to feel sadness in my own life. And especially people who are just not nice. Like you said, like the not nice lady next door, or the person standing in front of you at Starbucks, or the person who took your parking spot, or who bumped into your kid and didn't say sorry. I used to get really angry at those people, and then it would sit with me all day, and I'd act out towards other people because this one person who I don't know happened to, rub me the wrong way. And now I come at it from a very different point of view where you don't know what's going on. Maybe they got a phone call and they're rushing. Maybe they cut you off because they're rushing because they need to get to the hospital fast because something's wrong with somebody. Maybe their dog died this morning. Maybe they don't have enough love and compassion in their life to be able to feel the love and compassion and give that to other people. And instead of letting it rub off on me and sit with it all day and stir with it, I've been trying to come up with those excuses for them of why they're like this in that moment, because it makes me feel better for them and it makes me feel better for the rest of the day. So trying to change my outlook on that.
Yeah, and that's huge because that's what you're putting out into the world. So I used to do the same thing. I will say again, I was kind of crazy. I was very angry.
He's saying yes. The listeners can't hear you, but BJ, or they can't see you, but BJ is shaking his head saying yes.
Somehow BJ fell in love.
Still stuck around.
I know. Somehow BJ fell in love with that girl. And when I got still, this is what happened. When I got still, I got a really good look at how I was moving through the world, and I was shocked. Because as much as I could say, I'm a good person, why does this happen to me? I realized that I was creating it all. Because even though I was a quote unquote good person, I was still getting angry. I was still getting frustrated. I was still judging other people. I was still thinking that people needed to live or eat or move in a certain way. And that's all lower vibrational energy that I was adding to the world, which is the last thing the world needs. And so if anything, it's like the sitting allowed me to see who I actually was and how I was moving through the world. And it was not aligned with who I wanted to be in the world that I wanted to see.
We're taking a pause to let you know that this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast is brought to you by Health IQ, the insurance company designed to serve and reward those who engage in an active and health-conscious lifestyle. We know if you're a regular listener of this show, then you truly care about your health. But when it comes to life insurance, living well, embracing a healthy, active lifestyle, things like running, meditation, clean diet, and training for life, none of these things has historically had any impact on lowering your life insurance rates, which we think is really unfair. I remember a few years ago, after my tumor and beginning stages of heart disease were found, I tried to get myself more life insurance. My broker told me I would be denied because of it, and I was. I'd changed my lifestyle. Shouldn't that have counted for something? If only Health IQ was available to me here in Canada, and if I lived in the United States, I'd be able to take advantage of the awesome opportunity Health IQ is providing. They celebrate and reward people like you, people like us, people who live more healthy lifestyles. So how does Health IQ make it happen? They use science and data to get lower rates on life insurance for the health conscious, including those who exercise 4 times a week. They focus more on you and less on your family history. They even help athletes with low resting heart rates get better rates, and they even offer special rates for vegans. How cool is that? So don't overpay for life insurance. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/planttrainers or mention the promo code planttrainers when you talk to a Health IQ agent. And now back to the show. So this is a process that you went through, right? It must have taken a while. So someone who's listening who feels like they're at a low vibrating state right now, based on what they just heard you guys talk about, how can they raise their vibration to get themselves to a higher place? And these days everybody's looking for the hack and the quick way to do things. Mm-hmm. But the truth is it's a process, right? But is there something that someone could do today that could change their level of vibration?
Absolutely. And we do this. I do this with all my new athletes who don't have a strong meditation practice or have that mind that's just constantly going. They don't know what direction to go in. And it's as easy as waking up in the morning, and before you put your feet on the ground, you just take one conscious breath. You just take one breath, right? Super simple. But as athletes, and I'll talk to the athletes, the athlete mind is so driven and they're like, that's it. That's all I have to do, right? So let's take a few breaths. Let's sit quietly for a minute. Let's sit quietly for 2 minutes. And it's almost easier with athletes because they just need the training plan. Like, training your mind is just like training the body. Like, you need to undo the stuff that's already ingrained and take it back to the basics, like one conscious breath. And can you remember, I like to do this in my yoga classes, can you remember the breath you took this morning? One breath? No, I can't. But you can start. Like, let's start to link these conscious breaths together, and then you become so present and mindful. And it is a process. It's going to take a while. But if you can create the habit, right? Everything is a habit. And people don't like to hear this because they want the hack and they want that simple blue or red pill to take. And all of a sudden they reach this heightened state of awareness. It takes time.
There's a big pun in there with your blue pill and heightened state of awareness.
You're funny.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sidetracked. Continue.
But it's really basic. It's really simple like that. And also, we started these M21 programs for 21 days. You can join a Facebook group, and this group gets together, and it runs for 21 days. And you work with Jess and Golden, who is a podcast guest of ours, and they guide you through. They're there to support you through developing your own practice, whether that's just sitting quietly, whether that's in a group atmosphere. They're there to support you. And the people in this program, a lot of them just sit back and they just watch what's going on. They'll watch the videos, they'll watch the comments, right? But they come back for the next group. So something is clicking for them. Maybe they're not ready to participate yet, and that's okay. Because as you guys probably work with your nutrition people, it's meet them where they're at, and let's go from there. Let's get on some common ground, and then we can start to sprinkle in some things that maybe would push your limits a little bit. And so that's what this program has done. I highly recommend it. We're going on to our 4th one.
Yeah,
now.
And it seems like we'll probably be running these like once a month, but they run, the people who are in them run the gamut from like people like you call her old Jessica, like people like old Jessica who are just like angry, like I sit for meditation and I have a panic attack, like sometimes I used to sit for meditation at the very beginning and all I could do was scream because the energy that was inside of me, the thoughts that were in my head made me feel like I was crazy. And Eckhart Tolle says the only difference between us and the crazy woman on the street who's like swearing and screaming is that she's vocalizing her thoughts, right? And that was me. I was, oh my God, that's me. And so sometimes all I could do was scream. And I learned that actually in my trauma release class in massage school. Like one of our homework assignments was to go to like the far end of a parking lot, so we didn't horrify anyone, and scream until we were done. And then we had to write about it. And like I found myself going to the parking lot a lot. So when I started in meditation, it was not easy, but we've got people like that. And we've got people who have had like psychic abilities since they were 4 years old. Like it's so interesting how everyone can come together in this community, and the profound changes that have been happening in these groups is unbelievable. And we never thought we did the first one starting in November thinking, is anybody going to show up? And we're about to do our fourth one. Like people don't want to stop. Like we're like, okay, I just need like a week off, right? Like to regroup. But that's kind of a dramatic thing to say, because we're, as facilitators, myself and this woman, Golden, who is also a meditation teacher, and she's really heavy into quantum physics, has done a lot of studying. She's been meditating for about 20 years. We're practicing exactly what we're facilitating and teaching. And I can tell you that the material does not get recycled, because every moment there's new things moving through us to be expressed in this group. And it's such an effortless way to live, to just trust the present moment.
I've actually heard good things about it. I've actually talked to somebody who was in one of the groups. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So I've heard great things about it. I think what you're touching on also is that we're all on our own paths, right? So yes, you're all coming together, but it's going to look like something different for everybody. And it's not just, it's definitely a good beginning, but it's not just about putting in your headbuds and pressing go on your app, right? Meditation, if that doesn't work for you, there's something else out for you there. And kind of like food, right? Just because you don't like black beans doesn't mean that you don't like any beans at all, right? Keep trying new beans, keep trying new things. That's how we teach our kids. That's how we've taught ourselves to eat in the plant-based world, because many of us came from a place of fat, salt, and sugar, and we had to teach ourselves how to eat whole foods. And the same goes for meditation. There's something different out there, different combinations that work in different ways for different people.
Yeah, I think there's an access point for everyone. And I honestly believe that we're all here to eventually find this. And so just looking for your access point. And I love what BJ said, like start with 1 breath a day. Master that. And then move on from there.
Yeah, that's a great tip, a great thing for people to start doing. And we talked a little bit about athletics and movement. We talked a lot about mindset so far and the importance of it. We didn't really talk about food so much and how that plays into the holistic side of people. And I wanted to get your background on food. Were you always plant-based? Where did you get to it from? And you also came out with this cookbook. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll start with my story. I've always been on the path of healthy eating. I grew up in a bigger family. So we had like the typical meatloaf and pork chops and chicken and frozen fish. But I'm always the one in the family looking and curious for the next level of performance. And so I think the pivotal moment was when we moved to Boulder, Colorado. And I got on the train of triathlon and started to realize I need to tap into this nutrition thing. I need to realize that this fuel is going to fuel me through my activities, my races. And I started with, chicken. I was a big chicken person, chicken breasts. I would buy them, family packs of chicken, cut them up, freeze them. I would just have one every day. I had the George Foreman grill, broccoli and brown rice. It was pretty simple, pretty basic.
Jess is making crude gestures in the background.
Then Jess refused to make the chicken. So I refused to make it eventually. And so I started to buy the chicken from Whole Foods, the deli, it's already prepared. I don't have to touch it or clean it or anything. And then that sort of dropped off and I went to like lean beef or 90% lean beef. And that worked for a while. And then I went to bison and then I finally went to salmon because I thought that was healthy. So I'm just your typical person reading the information. This is what is healthy, considered healthy. And then it just got to a point where all that stuff fell away. because I was seeing people do it, perform at an extreme level on plants. And I'm the type of person that sees something and I don't see there's a reason why I can't do it myself. So it's been about 7 years now, and I've completed most of my Ironmans plant-based. This is my 14th year in the sport. And what I can say from fueling by plants is that I have everything I need to train, because I do train. I train 20 plus hours a week. I do compete at a high level. I balance my training well with the yoga and mindfulness, but the nutrition is what is fueling me. And more importantly, it's what's recovering me so that I can go out and do it again the next day.
Yeah.
Right? So the plant-based diet is an anti-inflammatory diet. Like it doesn't fester in my body. And so even today, like I'm even on the kick of like turmeric. I just dump a bunch of turmeric into hot water, and that's what I'm with some cracked black pepper. And that's what I'm consuming as my recovery drink, just because I know how I'm feeling after it. So I think the mindfulness piece ties in with nutrition, because now I'm aware of what my hand is reaching for and what's going in my mouth, which is going in my body, which is either going to help me or hurt me in my performance and training the next day.
And you'll find that out quite quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
It's funny. My daughter had a friend come over to play a few weeks ago, and the kid walks through the door and says, "You're Jordan's mother. I heard you're obsessed with turmeric." Little 7-year-olds.
I love that. If that's the word on the street.
That's the word on the street.
I would say that's pretty awesome. That's cool.
And what about you, Jess?
I was a natural born vegetarian. Even as a child, I remember sitting at the table so clearly, so many times. And it was what comes to mind is like corned beef. And I remember just always it was like a science project for me, like kind of pulling it apart and understanding now, because I went through massage school and I studied the body for a decade, that what I was doing is looking at like the fascicles of muscle and the bundles and the fascia and tendons. It was always so cool, like how I would find a tendon attached to a bone, and my mother would be like, "Just eat." But I would always say, like, this just seems like what a dead person would look like. And I had no connection of like, it was a dead animal. I don't remember anything like that, but I just remember being like, it smelled weird to me. It felt weird to me. Like a lot of times I would put it in my mouth and just drink my disgusting milk at the time that I didn't know was disgusting, and swallow it like a pill. Now that said, I ate many double bacon cheeseburgers. Okay. But on and off, I was very, very intuitive child. And so I would go on and off all through high school, all of that college, where I would go years as a vegetarian. And vegetarian because I had a massive cheese addiction. Huge. I had, just to sum up my cheese addiction, I ate it with every single meal and I snacked on it in between meals. So fast forward to 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago, and being in my yoga practice and really getting into meditation and mindfulness and understanding that one of the core principles is to always be in wonder and to be in curiosity. And so I ordered a salad one night at a restaurant, my favorite restaurant, and I said, "Hold the goat cheese," which I almost was like, "Oh, wait a minute, come back." Oh my God, who said that? Who said that? And I stuck with it. And I was a little panicked about having a salad without goat cheese. And I ate it. And I was like, all right, I survived. And the next day I had another meal and I didn't have cheese on it and I survived. And the next meal. And so this went on and on for about 10 days. And on like the 10th day, I had no allergies. I didn't wake up in a pool of phlegm, which I had my entire life. My skin didn't itch anymore. And within I think a couple weeks, I lost 10 pounds, which I'm kind of a small girl. But if I look back at pictures, I was just puffy everywhere. I was so puffy, like puffy cheeks and all of that. And I don't ever want to put anything into my body that makes my skin itch or that creates phlegm or makes me bloated. And that's what it did. And the energy too. It wasn't like my energy went through the roof because I was working out. I was, quote unquote, a healthy eater. But what happened, what I noticed is like the energy was just sustained. And that never stopped. It never, ever stopped. And so I just didn't ever want to go back. I felt too good. I couldn't believe that I could feel better. And I did. And so that was around the same time. And, we were listening to the,
Ritual.
Scott Jurek, and I can't remember exactly how these guys were coming into our lives, but I was seeing athletes doing things on a plant-based diet, and I wanted that. I was curious about that. And then, so we both got into it for performance, but make no mistake at all, we stay in it because of the planet and the animals, and because my blood work is pristine and my body feels amazing. There's a lot to it, and I'm so glad that my eyes have been opened because I'm on the other side. Like, the veil has been lifted in every aspect of my life. Mindfulness, vegan eating, lifting the limits of what I can do with my body on plants, and there's just no turning back for me. And I want to share that with the world.
I think that's beautiful. And you talk about mindful eating, and I think the first step to mindful eating is really intuitive eating. And that's kind of what you were both picking up on. What's serving my body the best? What do I feel good about? What am I thinking about while I eat my food? Or what is my food reminding me of? And if your food's reminding you of bounties and abundance and energy, then great. But if your food is reminding you of what a dead person would look like, then you've got to take a second take and get over that fear of having that first salad without the goat cheese on it, and just listen to yourself and be mindful. But there's so many other different concepts and pillars to explore when talking about mindful eating as well. That is perfect for anybody who is vegan, vegetarian, or omni in general. I think that we have all going to do a little bit better with our mindfulness while we're eating. So let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think mindful eating starts with, and when we work with nutrition clients, and even in these M21 groups, I'm always assigning like mindful eating practices for them, because I feel that we're extremely disconnected from our food and our food sources. And I also believe that that's been done on purpose, right? To keep us, because if at the core of who we are is love, which I believe the core of who we all are is love, then I don't think that anyone would harm any being to have a plate of food. I don't feel that it's aligned with who we are. And a yogic principle being ahimsa. I want to create as much love in this world as I possibly can. And so it starts just like when I sat and got still and got to look at who I was and how I was moving through the world. Same thing with the food. When the food shows up on your plate, take a minute, stop. Don't just, as my dad would say, strap on the feed bag. Like, stop, look at it, and contemplate this. And this might sound like kind of yoga, woo-woo kind of speak, but it's not. It's really logical to me. Look at your food. Contemplate its journey. How many fingers have touched it? How did that meat get there? Who was its mother? How did it get there? And how far did it travel? And what did that piece of bread look like when all of its parts were separated? And believe me, I love bread. I'm not an anti-bread person, but it's just getting in touch with it. And I'm not saying that anything is right or wrong, but I believe that it is our divine right to be connected with what we put in our body, because what we put in our body, it becomes us. And I think that that's massive to have a connection there.
I think this whole idea and this whole concept that you're talking about in terms of mindful eating right now goes really well with food literacy or food education. And what Adam and I have done is we created a workbook for children and families, because there's lots of learning for adults in it as well. But, there's cool puzzles in it. There's crosswords, there's word searches, there's fill in the blanks, but there's lots of good content in there. And it was put together mindfully to be able to allow children and adults and families to think about what's going on their plate. Where did it come from? What was that journey? How does it affect your body? What kind of etiquettes do we have around food? And really taking your time to appreciate food for what it is, instead of just taking it for granted and strapping on that food bag. And I think that the more that we're teaching our young ones about this idea of food has a history, right? Bread doesn't just come as bread. Bread started somewhere. It started as wheat in the fields. It started as, maybe it started with eggs. Maybe it started with cows. Like really putting this together and thinking what has come forth to create this food in front of me, and how is that affecting my body? What effect is that happening on the world? Not just right here on my plate at this point in time. So I think that kind of goes really well together with the whole idea of food education or food literacy, and really taking the time to think about the things that we're doing and how we're fueling our body and how we want our bodies to behave in return.
Yeah, and it's consciousness. It's just bringing consciousness, so we always say like awake and ready, like being awake to our choices, awake to what we're putting in our food, awake to how we're moving through the world, awake to how we're treating other people, whether they be our competitors on the swim or the person that's parked next to us. And, mindful eating can take on so many components. And I just think it's really important to touch upon the fact that when I've been in full on Ironman training, every single meal I'm eating is in the car. So I get it. Like, we don't always have 15 minutes to contemplate our food, but you do have one breath to look at it and take a moment. And you can eat mindfully on the run. So like when I would be driving to a yoga class after getting a couple workouts in and it's 7:00 in the morning, all of this has already happened. Like, I get it. I would turn the radio off and I would feel my hands on the steering wheel. And I would take a sip of my smoothie or whatever it was that I was eating, and I would feel it go into my body, and I would track it as far as it went, because I've got nothing else to do but drive. So yes, even though I'm driving and I'm eating, we can still be mindful, quote unquote, on the run. We can be mindful anywhere.
Absolutely. And for those people who are getting in early morning workouts and it feels like 2:00 in the afternoon by the time 7:00 in the morning runs around, I want them to know that if they do, and they should, get your cookbook that I have right in front of me right here, the Yogi Triathlete Cookbook, High Vibe Recipes for Athlete Appetite, that your Iron Maiden, which is basically a curry dish, that can be a great 7:00, 8:00 in the morning dish. I've had it at that time in the day and it rocked. It was awesome.
Most people would say a curry for breakfast. That's a little weird.
Absolutely. A curry for breakfast. I made it one night and I froze the leftovers so that we had it for the next week. So that was one night that I didn't have to cook. And then we had like the tiniest little bit left over, and being mindful of our bodies, we didn't just eat it down that night so that we didn't have to put it back in the fridge. I put it in the fridge and I got back from a workout, showered, got the kids off to school, and boom, started eating the curry.
So it's a really good one. It's just so packed with iron. And Jess talked about our blood work before, and my blood work came back and I was a little bit deficient in iron. And it turns out, I've been eating a lot of iron, but it's also the absorption. I was having problems absorbing the iron. So caffeine was cut out about 7 months ago. So I did all these Ironman on limited caffeine, because I would take a gel during the race that had caffeine in it. But the regular cups of coffee in the morning, shot.
What about green tea?
Green tea I have a little bit of, but mostly decaf green tea. But yeah, no, that has a little bit in it too. But like the 2 or 3 cups a morning, like not happening.
Well, and the couple in the afternoon.
A couple in the afternoon too. Let's be honest, right?
No coffee after 1 p.m.
But the Iron Maiden is just so packed with iron, and I have another athlete who is deficient as well, and so she makes big batches of it and freezes it, just like you were talking about. And it's easy to pull it out, just heat it up and have it as a hearty dish. And back to the mindful eating, like you don't have to have the whole bowl full of it, even as good as it tastes. Like you can just have like a helping, wait 20 minutes and see how you feel. Even as an athlete, I feel like that gets lost a little bit. Like I feel like all this performing and training 20 hours, like I can eat whatever I want. That's unacceptable. Like that's just not good. Being mindful about the portion size that you have, especially with that Iron Maiden meal, which is so good.
Coconut milk. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
good. And there's so many other great recipes in that book. Our kids looked through it and chose a couple and we made them, and everybody just really loved them. So you did a really good job. The photography is really nice, and we're going to put the link in our show notes.
I think BJ did all that photography. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We're going to start to wrap it up, but I did want people to know we don't have time to talk about it in full detail, but you do have your pooch porridge. So you do have a recipe for dogs in the book as well, which I think is awesome. And I'm assuming that it's human grade.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is. I'm looking at it. So you guys share that bowl with him?
Yeah, it's definitely human grade. And there's a little bit of the story about how we got to, Clark to eating a whole foods plant-based diet. And I just want to add that the inspiration for this book really came from a bit of a frustration of getting cookbooks and buying into easy recipes and low ingredient. And I just never found them to be easy or low ingredient. And I thought, gosh, I just need to share these recipes that we've been creating because we're two really busy endurance athletes. And I can tell you that every single one of the recipes in that book, maybe besides the banana bread, which was based on my mother-in-law's initial very non-vegan, unhealthy banana bread, was born from us being like, okay, we're exhausted. What do we have in the house? And so opening up the fridge and being like, okay, we got lentils, we got spinach, we've got turmeric always. And that's how these recipes were created. And that's why you'll see ingredients being used over and over again. And, and that there's nothing that's really specialty that you have to go to a certain store. And, I remember specifically when this cookbook really came into me, I was at a grocery store buying an ingredient for a very well-known cookbook, and it was $40. And I thought, I can't do that. And I was like, I have got to share what we've been doing on a budget. 2 people racing Ironman is not cheap. And so they were really born from just what do we have in the house? And there's a little description about each one. And I can promise you that there is an incredible amount of love in that book.
Well, we definitely see it. And like I said, we've tried out some of the recipes. We absolutely love them. And it's totally up our alley. Most of our recipes are unrecipes. They're things that you can create fast on the go and give you the most bang for your buck in terms of nutrients, which is really important, especially when you don't want to be spending all your money on all kinds of vitamin supplements that we don't need anyway.
No. I totally agree. Absolutely. And I just want to say, Linda Lang, she tested all the recipes. She came into our life at the Ultra last year and was like, I just want to help you guys. Send me all the recipes. I'll test them. She's so amazing. So I just want to give her big props because she's amazing. And BJ doing the photography and designing the book, it wouldn't be there without those guys.
Amazing. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We're definitely going to link to that in the show notes. And we will also link to where our listeners can get in touch with you or learn more about you. So where would you like them to go?
YogiTriathlete.com. Yeah, and we're pretty easy. Why don't you say
Yogi Triathlete on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all Yogi Triathlete, one word. And website's a great place to go.
Amazing. We're so happy that you guys joined us tonight. Thank you so much. You guys are doing incredible work helping athletes, helping everybody with their mindfulness, their movement, their gratitude, all of it. You're the full package. So it's a pleasure to have this time with you, to get to know you guys. I can't wait till we actually get to see you in person sometime soon. So thanks so much for being here on the Plant Trainers Podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's been so amazing. I'm hugging you both right now.
Yeah, I was going to say virtual hugs. Yeah.
Virtual hugs.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day.